it's time to move into my favorite segment of Reason. Hypocrite of the week! Woo! This week's Hypocrite of the week is going to a pastor. Whoa, guess we couldn't have guessed that. Who has been accused of sexual abuse of at least 15 different people in 3 states who have came forth and signed affidavits saying that he has sexually abused them, and 2 of them, I think, were 12 years ago, but somehow the courts have found enough evidence to show that he actually did this, and he is probably going to be prosecuted and hopefully punished to the fullest extent of the law. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and play this video, and then we will discuss it.
Now to the latest on a local pastor who's accused of molesting children. Roy Harriger faced the judge this afternoon in Orleans County, and his trial date has been set for January 20th. He's accused of preying on 3 children. He's also facing a gun possession charge in a separate case. He's been ordered to stay away from his church, and he's due back in court on January 20th.
Okay. I specifically chose this guy just for the reason of his number of people that he's accused of molesting. Now he's 70 years old, and he has 15 that have come forward in 3 different states, and those are not the full number. There's supposedly more. So, we're going to talk about this guy and, hopefully crucify him and roast him really well. Anybody want to comment on him first?
Well, I have to say that it's on the broadcaster's part. I really think that it was a bad use of words to say he preyed on children. Just because I bet a lot of religious people heard that and it's like, they're putting him in jail for being Christian. I know it. He was just trying to help those kids and pray for them. Oh, you mean pray as in, like stalk and poach and then fuck. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna say.
Okay, we need to talk about something here though, and I just don't fucking get it. Like, I understand that the children are defenseless, and it happens to have to do with like the power. They're exerting their power over someone that's helpless. But really, man, like children, like, come on, man. I'm not saying that X is better than Y by saying he should go out and rape women or grown men, but we are talking about defenseless children here.
I mean, there are degrees, though, and this is something that like Richard Dawkins has gotten in trouble with in the past for trying to explain about how there's different levels of evil or whatever. And hey, Dieter, you need to mute your mic. Thanks. But I would agree. I mean, because you can much more easily take advantage of a child than an adult. I mean, it is possible to abuse or to corrupt an adult or somebody who's older, who's of age. There's people who are susceptible to that, but it's much easier to corrupt a child who, especially when you're in a position of authority and when their parents have entrusted you to them. It's really awful. There's a reason why even when these like child molesters and people that abuse kids go to prison, like even the most hardened criminals look down upon these people as like the worst of the worst, because they're not even going after adults. They're going after the low-hanging fruit, like the easiest victims possible. And especially when they're in a position of authority, it's the worst. It's the worst. And yeah, it's just, I guess, obviously what he did was horrendous. And what makes it worse is the fact that, he's now 70 years old. How long has this been going on? I mean, 3 different states, and all too often the people just continue getting away with this because the kids don't want to speak up. They're embarrassed, or they think nobody will believe them. And it's not their fault. And these people just keep going on, and they groom more and more victims. And then eventually, when somebody comes out and speaks up and comes forward, then that kind of gives confidence to other people. But then usually they're much older, they're adults, they're doing that to cope, they're doing it to kind of finally address those issues. But at any rate, just I guess to wrap it up a little bit is this is just the worst of the worst. And whether he actually is attracted to children or if he was just going for an easy target, it's just awful. And this guy, he's already 7 years old, but hopefully they can just put him away, and he can rot for a while before he actually kicks the bucket.
I can't help but comment as to how similar this sounds to the Maxima Mea Culpa movie. I don't know if you guys have seen that documentary, but it's very emotional, and it really highlights, exactly how pastors of this nature, or priests, whatever, really manipulate kids in just the worst ways, using their faith. There was one in the movie. They had several people that used to be affiliated with the Catholic Church that came forward and actually talked about some of the abuses that went on. And one of the accounts was a priest. He sexually abused a girl, and how he did it was, he said he got like a one of those communion crackers, and he pretty much like got her to disrobe and touched the communion cracker to her genitals and was like, "This is how God loves you," and then he raped her. And so, it's things like this that are just so appalling about religion in general. Because, also in that movie, Maxima Mea Culpa, they show how priests and pastors, they knew about this monster that was Father Murphy. Father Murphy. He was actually found out by other priests. Like, other priests had found out from the children that he was like molesting them at night. And they talked to him, they argued with him, and then they just left and never thought about it. It's like, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And that is one of the biggest problems, at least in my opinion, about the religious, in the world today, is that they leave things to God. They let God be the ultimate judgment, when in all actuality, we are the ultimate judgment. I mean, we are the ones that judge each other. And it's just ridiculous to be like, "Oh yeah, you fucked that 12-year-old. Well, God's gonna fuck you over later." It's completely ridiculous. But anyways, I really implore anybody watching to check out the documentary Maxima Mea Culpa.
All I've got to say is, they all float. They all float. But on a serious note, I think this stems from another problem that we don't really discuss in society, and it's kind of one of the reasons that I also brought this up. Pedophilia is not really addressed. It's kind of like one of those things where we don't offer any treatments for it. We don't do any real studies on it, and if we are doing studies on it, right now it's kind of like in the pioneering stage. If they are doing it, it's not like we have tons of research that can tell us, this is why they feel this way, or this is the mental instability that causes this, or this is just a mental disability or a state of mind that we need to correct. And I think that it's because we kind of shoo it off as it's like one of those, oh, it's just too much for us to research. It's just too much for us to, want to invest our time in. And we're more concerned with punishing these people. So what do we do with someone who comes forward and says, "Hey, look, like, I'm attracted to children. Like, I haven't done anything wrong, but I'm sexually attracted to children. I want to have sex with them, but I don't do it." you know, we don't have outlets for people like that. I mean, if someone came forward in the community and said that, people would be really freaked out by that. And I think that we do need to change that. I mean, I understand that pedophilia is a taboo and that it's children, but we still need to, you know, we need to be on the side of society that is advocating for people with issues. And this is just another issue. Pedophilia is an issue that I think, I'm not saying that we can correct it, but maybe we can understand it better.